On the night of July 30th, 2026, Donald Trump posted 3 sentences on Truth Social that were meant to end a war. Today, the Board of Peace reached a historic agreement for the complete disarmament of Hamas and all other armed groups in Gaza. This is a monumental step toward lasting peace and security. It reads like a victory lap, a war that has ground on for nearly 2 years, finally, on paper, over. But 3 hours away in Jerusalem, the reaction was silence. And in Gaza City, where families were still pulling bodies from rubble the same week this deal was signed, the reaction was something closer to disbelief. So which is it? Is this the moment the Gaza war actually ends? Or is it a piece of paper that both sides signed for reasons that have nothing to do with peace? Let's start with the facts, because the facts matter more than the adjectives Trump used to describe them. On July 30th, in El-Alamein, Egypt, negotiators finalized what's being called the second phase of Trump's 20-point Gaza peace plan. The deal was brokered by 4 guarantors: the United States, Turkey, Egypt, and Qatar, and overseen by a body created earlier this year called the Board of Peace, chaired in practice by former NATO official Nikolai Mladenov. The core of the agreement is this: Hamas and other armed factions in Gaza agree to hand over their weapons, starting with police-held arms, followed later by heavier weapons like rockets and anti-tank missiles, to a newly created body called the National Committee for the Administration of Gaza, or NCAG. Critically, the weapons don't go to Israel. They don't go to any foreign force. They go to this Palestinian Technocratic Committee, which is meant to replace both Hamas and the Palestinian Authority as Gaza's day-to-day government. In exchange, Israel is committed to a phased military withdrawal, tied directly to how much disarmament has actually happened on the ground. The full document lays out roughly 200 to 350 days for complete demilitarization, done sector by sector, not all at once, so reconstruction can begin in areas that are cleared while other parts of Gaza are still being processed. On paper, it's the most detailed disarmament roadmap Hamas has ever agreed to. To understand why this matters, you need to understand what Hamas has said on the record for the past year. In January 2026, senior Hamas official Musa Abu Marzouk stated flatly that the group had never agreed to disarm. In April, Hamas's armed wing publicly rejected even discussing disarmament until Israel fully implemented the first phase of the ceasefire. Giving up weapons wasn't just a policy position for Hamas. It's written into the group's founding charter, which frames armed resistance as central to its identity. For an organization that has built its legitimacy on being the armed defender of Gaza, agreeing to hand over that arsenal is close to agreeing to redefine what the organization is. So when Hamas negotiator Ghazi Hamad told Al Jazeera that the talks were difficult and hard, but had produced the best possible formula that was achievable, that's not spin. That's an admission that Hamas gave up ground it spent a year refusing to give up. Why now? US officials point to 2 pressure points converging at once. First, financial and military exhaustion. 9 months into the ceasefire, Hamas has lost its ability to fund itself or rearm at scale. Second, Iran. American officials say Tehran actively lobbied Hamas not to sign, urging them to hold out. But Iran, tied down in its own confrontation with the United States, simply isn't in a position to back that advice with anything real. Hamas's leadership, according to officials briefed on the talks, concluded they had to weigh their own survival against the future of the population they claim to represent. Here's where the historic framing starts to wobble. Hamas didn't sign an unconditional surrender of its weapons. It signed a conditional roadmap. Hamas officials have been explicit. None of this happens unless Israel also delivers a full end to hostilities and a genuine verified troop withdrawal from Gaza. Hamad said it plainly. Implementation depends entirely on Israel fulfilling its own obligations first, and Israel has not signed this document. Israel is not a party to the agreement. It's a country being consulted by the guarantors, not a signatory bound by it. Prime Minister Netanyahu's office has already indicated the deal falls short of what Israel actually demanded, which was full, verified, front-loaded disarmament with no ambiguity about sequencing. That sequencing question is the whole ballgame. Hamas wants to disarm as Israel withdraws, a mutual, synchronized process. Israel wants disarmament first, proof first, before its forces move an inch. Squint at the deal, and you can see both interpretations sitting inside the same text, unresolved, kicked down the road to an implementation committee that hasn't been fully formed yet. Israeli intelligence officials go further, telling reporters they believe Hamas isn't making a genuine ideological shift at all. It's buying time. Buying breathing room from military, political, and financial pressure, with every intention of preserving influence over Gaza through means other than uniformed fighters. And Israeli officials have specifically named Qatar and Turkey as guarantors they don't fully trust, accusing both of quietly helping Hamas retain political relevance, even while publicly endorsing the disarmament process. One senior Israeli official summed up the mood bluntly. A year ago, Israel didn't believe hostages would come home. Now, they don't believe Hamas will actually disarm. Trump called this the agreement everybody said could never be achieved. That's true, as far as it goes. Hamas has never before put its name to a disarmament framework of any kind. But agreeing to a roadmap and walking that roadmap are two very different things. Gaza has spent the better part of 2 years watching frameworks arrive with historic language and modest follow-through. The Board of Peace has just won its first real diplomatic headline. Whether it's remembered as the moment the war ended, or just the moment both sides bought themselves more time to avoid blame for what comes next, that will be decided not in Truth Social posts, but in the next 200 days on the ground.